Hello, I'm Colonel Bill Hodgkins, the current and the last commander of the 32nd Fighter Group. The video presentation that you're about to see depicts the rich heritage, the history, and the success of our 40-year stay in the Netherlands. It's a tribute to the men and women and their pride, dedication, and contributions to the defense of the Netherlands, of NATO, and of the United States of America. It depicts many elements of our successful mission execution. I'd remind you as you're watching the video, the unit though is made up much more of just its accomplishment of the mission. It's made up of the men and women, the people who serve in that unit. It is to those men and women, the current and the former 32nd Wolfhounds, that this presentation is dedicated.
When the decision was made to put United States forces on Dutch soil, Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. The Marshall Plan was in full force. The Korean War had just ended. NATO was in its infancy, and the Dutch guilder rate was 4.28 to the dollar. The driving force behind the placement of U.S. Air Forces in Holland was a NATO defense study which made suggestions for improving and bolstering air defense in the Central European region of NATO. After discussions with the Dutch government, the decision was made to place the squadron of U.S. Air Force interceptors at the Royal Netherlands Air Force Base of Soesterberg because of its central location within this NATO area of responsibility. The first aircraft assigned to Soesterberg were F-86F Sabres. These aircraft came as the 512 Fighter Day Squadron, which flew direct from RAF Manston, England. The first aircraft to arrive was flown by the commander of the squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Frank M. Haney, on November 16, 1954. The flight took all of 26 minutes and was met at the Dutch border by Royal Netherlands Air Force Gloucester Meteor Mk7 of 328 Squadron. The small part of the base assigned to the Americans received the name Camp New Amsterdam as a reminder of the first Dutch colony in America, New Amsterdam, which was later renamed New York. The original contingent of Americans was only 270 officers and airmen. Although clear in its mission of augmentation to the Royal Netherlands Air Forces, the 512th's lack of historical connection to the Dutch caused the U.S. Air Force to search for an appropriate unit designation with the desired connection. After an extensive search, officials made a decision to assign the unit designation of an inactive World War II squadron, which had served, if not in the Netherlands proper, then at least on Dutch soil, Curaçao and Aruba. From these Dutch islands, the 32nd Fighter Squadron tried to track down groups of German submarines, which, working together, were inflicting heavy losses on Allied shipping in the Caribbean. These groups were known as wolf packs and resulted in the squadron nickname of Wolfhounds. The squadron emblem at the time was the vicious and visibly hungry wolf head designed by Walt Disney Studios. As a result of both the wolf emblem and the squadron mission of hounding German U-boats, the nickname of Wolfhounds came into being. As the 32nd Fighter Day Squadron, the Wolfhounds were reactivated on September 8, 1955 at Soesterberg Air Base. With that action began the long history of the 32nd in Holland. Not quite a year later, the 32nd became supersonic when it received the F-100C Super Sabre to replace the F-86F Sabre brought to Soesterberg from England. The transition to the Super Sabre was completed August 30th, 1956. In order to accommodate the new aircraft, the runway had to be extended to 10,200 feet. This was completed August 8th, 1956. During this time, the 32nd Fighter Day Squadron reported to the 36th Fighter Day Group, stationed at Bitburg Air Base, Germany. The 32nd experienced its first of 12 aircraft fatalities on May 28, 1957, when First Lieutenant Alan N. Ray went down with his F-100C as it approached Soesterberg Air Base. The F-100 was a tricky plane to fly, and as a result, a total of 8 F-100s were lost over 4 years, 3 by one pilot alone. 2 years later, the 32nd received the first of several Outstanding Unit Awards, and on July 8, 1958, the squadron was redesignated the 32nd Tactical Fighter Squadron. It was 5 years later that one of the most distinguishing trademarks of the 32nd was created. The wreath and crown of the Netherlands royal family was added to the distinctive Wolfhound patch.